So moving on to the Micro Canadian 2, there's two styles of Micro Canadian. There's the Micro Canadian in A2 and the Micro Canadian 2 in 154 cm in this case. This particular one has a bighorn sheep handle scales. It's also a 3-finger there you go, you can see this. The handle, I'll give you the specs. So the specs on this one, overall length, focus, overall length is 5.1 inches. The handle scales on this one are 2.94 inches. The edge, just the cutting edge, thank you, is 1.725 inches. So basically 1 3/4 inches. And the thickness, 0.118 inches. You can see the difference. And along with that, it's much finer grind. This knife is meant to be a slicing knife. I think the design is that it's a small skinning knife for small game. You can see that with the way the belly is curved. The upsweep, it's got more, this curve is steeper. You've got the bowed back, the bowed spine, which is a characteristic of the Canadian series, Bark River knives. This one weighs 1.6 ounces, which I think is a little bit heavier than some of the others, probably due to the handle scales. So I was saying earlier, same 3-finger grip, extremely comfortable, the way that your hand just sort of fits around, the little finger fits in this smoothed out area here, and even more comfortable in a 2-finger grip. I actually find this particular knife more comfortable than the Little Creek. I like the way that it is very thin right at this point, and the balance on this one is not quite as handle heavy as the Little Creek. The Little Creek balances quite far back. It's actually behind the pin here, which puts it well behind the first finger, and that makes it seem heavier than it actually is when you're using it. I mean, it's only 2 ounces, it's not a big deal as far as weight is concerned, but it feels very heavy and stout, whereas this feels very light, and especially here when you hold it like this, it's just really comfortable. Now this particular one, and I think it may be because it's the bighorn sheep handle scales here, is not very comfortable in a side grip, but as an EDC knife, especially a small one, that's not a grip you use that often. This grip is very comfortable. This is very comfortable. And this format, this type of grip, also really good. More comfortable with the Micro Canadian to do that. It just sort of, the way your middle finger here indexes on this part of the handle makes it really easy to move from grip to grip. Whereas this, see, I did it just there, I had my finger on the blade, is a little bit less comfortable to move from grip to grip. But for a more heavy cut in that grip, it's more solid. And you can see the comparison between the Swiss Army knife and the Micro Canadian. For sheath options, they're the same for both knives. The standard Bushcraft F, I'll use the right sheath for it. Fits about like that. I have noticed one thing with this particular knife, and I'm not sure if it's because of the scales on this one or if it's true for all of them. Wearing this on your belt, which would sit about here, your belt would go right about here, I find this just a little bit digs in to your side, which is not something I ever noticed with the Little Creek, which is a little bit smoother in this area. In fact, it's smoother in every dimension. But like I say, that may be the Bighorn sheep slabs, or handle scales. And aside from those, one of the other options is the Mini Modern Classic, which you can get from Knife Ship Free. And this black one I actually bought to go with the Little Creek. And that makes it really good. That's good for belt. It hangs a bit lower, but because the overall length is less than 6 inches, it's not objectionable to wear around town. The other nice thing about this is that it has enough retention that you can just use this as a pocket sheath all by itself. And I do that quite often. And then the last option is the Knife Ship Free Adirondack pocket sheath. There's another, I think it's called the Pocono, that's similar to this, but it has a cutout here. And I think it would work just as well, but I don't have one of those. And I quite often carry both of these knives as pocket knives, along with my Leatherman. This is my well-abused Leatherman Juice CS4, and it fits in here quite nicely. So those are the two knives. For my use as an EDC blade, the thing that I prefer is edge retention. I don't use either of these knives to really worry about toughness. So for my use, the Little Creek is kind of overbuilt. It's more knife than I need. I find I carry the Micro Canadian more often. The 154 cm I think is better in terms of edge retention, at least wear resistance. So normally what I'm using these knives for, it would be opening boxes, opening letters. If I have any annoying hairs, I'll shave them off. You know, and in that case, the 154 cm just works a little bit better for me. And being more than half an ounce lighter, again, half an ounce, who really cares? But still, you know, I'll go with the Micro Canadian. There are an awful lot of people though that like the Little Creek, so it really just depends on what you want, what you use it for. If you need something that's a little bit heavier duty, you want a small bushcraft type knife for doing woodworking, something with a little bit thicker edge grind. This is quite a bit thinner. This Micro Canadian will outslice the Little Creek quite noticeably. But on the other hand, if you're doing sort of bushcraft style stuff with it, you may end up damaging that edge. Whereas this one, I think you'd be hard pressed to damage. I'd be interested to hear from people who do use this for skinning small game, just how well it works. I suspect it worked pretty well. So anyway, those are the Bark River Knives, Little Creek, or Micro Canadian 2, and Little Creek A2 154 cm. Pretty similar in the way you hold them. Shorter blade, obviously, slightly longer. More of a Skinner style with a bow back, spine, drop point. Anyway, thanks for watching.